first question to start us off, to the entire panel, to all three groups, what are some of the key challenges that you faced? So College Ready Promise, LAUSD, you're in the earlier stages, and with TAP, over a decade under your belt already. Kind of at this stage in either design or implementation, what are some of the key challenges, specifically around systems, the systems perspective with regards to operations, or if you want to take it a different way, that's fine too. Just stay under a minute.
Let me go.
Go for it.
Can you hear me? I think I alluded a little bit to the challenges my presentation in that we have, instead of like the other three Gates intensive partnership sites, we're that are each individual school districts. We are 5 very strong-willed charter management organizations who have all, for the kind of the first time, really come together to work on something really, really important and something that affects every classroom that they have. And they all start from very different points in a lot of different ways, from their already existing teacher support systems to their data systems. So, just even building a data system that are we going to build one, or we just support each 5? I mean, it's just like we have so many questions about implementation along each step that probably some of the other places don't have. That it's our deliberate approach is even more deliberate because of some of those kind of challenges.
I would just say quickly, I think set aside the scale that we're looking at, and that's part of the reason we're doing the very deliberate phased-in approach and modeling first and piloting first. I think the biggest challenge is sort of what I would call the yeah right challenge, because I think teachers and principals and others in the system are saying, sure, you're talking a good game, and yeah, this sounds good, but you probably heard it in some of what Kyle was saying about, is the system actually, are we as a system really devoted and dedicated and committed to seeing this through, or is this just the latest new fad to fix stuff? So I think that it's sort of that test of whether or not we're real about it at this time, and only the proof will be if we actually deliver on something that works for kids.
Our challenges, I'll say 3 of them. One would be that we do, similar to College Ready Promise, we have a diversity of partners that we work with across the country, and the political, social, demographic differences vary greatly. We're working with schools, in many cases districts, also with state infrastructure. So we have to adapt to that and meet the needs and accommodate that partnership. We also, I think, are challenged sometimes about getting our message out, especially from the teachers who are doing TAP and seeing the results, the positive results, and getting the messaging out of the positive impact. Media like to pick up on the negative, not the positive, and so we sometimes struggle with getting the positive story out there. And then third is sustainability. And there are 2 factors for sustainability that we have seen consistently. One is a change of leadership, and we know that education leaders change quite frequently. Just look at LA Unified and superintendencies. There's so much churn. And also with funding, our program has benefited greatly from some federal dollars, and so then it's a challenge of our partners to sustain those dollars over time.
Great, thank you for that. We touched upon this in a couple of the presentations, but I'd like to hear more about who are the right people to conduct teacher observations, classroom observations, and why, as well as what are the implications of that decision, whether it's a principal, a peer teacher, a teacher from another school, a TAP evaluator.
I think that, can you hear me? Am I on? I think as a teacher, whoever's been very trained, I know all of our principals who are going through, right now they're going through these intense trainings, and they have to pass this test to make sure that they're all normed on when they come into our classroom, to make sure that it's very unbiased. So whoever does come in, it can be the same no matter who it was. And we already have the principals coming in on a very regular basis, so I trust her to give me an accurate score. Our peers, I think our peers are very important in giving us an evaluation because we work with them all the time. We collaborate constantly, every day. We have minimum days every Wednesday for PD, so we create our lesson plans for the following week as a team and our students, and that's going to look very different from what the principals do and from what our peers, the information the peers give us are their observations. But the students, they have lots to say. You know, they're in there day in, day out with you. So they have some very valuable information that they can contribute also, and the parents. Parents can give you tons of feedback on what their kids tell them when they come home from school and how their day was. So I think it's everyone.
We've defined the TAP evaluators to be the leadership team, who are usually the principal, sometimes an AP in a school, then our master teachers and mentor teachers. And for us, it's really that certification and data monitoring piece that ensures that there is a reliable observation taking place. Also, there's a combination of announced and unannounced observations. In the announced observation, there's a pre-conference. So the teacher and the evaluator spend time together beforehand talking about what they're going to be looking at and how it aligns to the goals of that individual teacher. But for every single observation, there's a post-conference. So there's that immediate feedback, and in fact, I believe the evaluator is required to give that feedback within a 48-hour period, maybe 36, I'm not sure what it is, but pretty quick within the next couple days. So there's really an immediate feedback loop, and you mentioned trust. Trust really becomes a fundamental factor in the TAP school. There's a great deal of trust between those peer evaluators as well as the principal. No more gotcha.
Great, thank you. We have an LAUSD specific question, and it has to do with the teachers union. So how would you characterize the main objections that you're hearing from the teachers unions to these efforts to reform the teacher evaluation system, and how are you, what strategies do you have in place to engage and work with them?
So I'll give an answer, and then maybe Kyle has something to add to this. I think that what we get to in a lot of our discussions is probably, I don't know what the right percent, 97, 98% of the things we agree with. The leadership and sort of stated policies is when you start to think about where does this, the issue of the day, where does the academic growth over time fit within the broader scope of an evaluation and growth and development process. That's the part that I think there's probably the most disagreement. But I think both leadership and membership of our UTLA partners have been very involved in this process as we built and designed these measures. And that's how we continue and will continue to work to advance the conversation and find those places where we can continue to drive the development through and the learning and the feedback through the people that, both principals and teachers that will be using the system. So.
Great. And for our last question as we transition, and Kyle, you're not allowed to answer this since you'll be on the next panel. Can I have one of you address this question? What do you think needs to be done at the state level to enable more, if not all, of California school districts to strengthen their teacher evaluation systems? I know it's a big one.
Go for it.
Yeah, you know, there's any number of things I think that could be done at the state level and through and the legislature could take on. I think first and foremost, the legislature needs to seriously consider changing the LIFO policy so that school districts have much more flexibility in how they are able to use teacher evaluations. When it comes to the challenges that the mayor talked about and how do you How do you make excuses when you have a teacher who's been exemplary and they had their pink slip for 3 years in a row? One year they're teaching 4th grade, the next year they're in middle school. It's just, there's no continuity, and it has a tremendously negative impact on not only the teaching profession, but on the students themselves. Also I think from our very selfish TCRP perspective, the issue of sustainability is one that's going to be crucial for us. So, we were $71 million from the Gates Foundation and from TIF to be able to implement the work that we're doing. I think from a total public school perspective, but also I think more particularly a charter perspective, the funding equity and facilities equities issues and the ability to be able to sustain the work that we do beyond the life of the grant is something that over these next few years we really need to have addressed in Sacramento.
While there are spots where it's working, the STOL process, the current process, overwhelmingly it's not. So the state had a role in setting that out. So the state, we think, has a role in setting some broad parameters, allowing locally defined and developed particulars, but broad parameters of what should go into, not just the evaluation, but how districts and other schools and school systems should be thinking about and using results from evaluation processes to grow and develop our teachers.
Great, and with that, let me thank the panelists for your time and for your presentations, and I'll ask Arun to come on up to take us to the next piece of our agenda. Thank you.